In the last 2 or 3 years of my life, I've been noticing an abundance of synchronicities everywhere. You know, those random coincidences, but they don't seem all that random. Hell, I describe them as synchronicities, but I'm not even sure what that means. It's just one of those terms I picked up through culture, you know? Which begged the question, what is a synchronicity? Well, this journey started as I was having a conversation with a friend. We were talking about all these coincidences I just kept experiencing and these random ones that just felt like they were more than a random coincidence. I was really wanting to use the word synchronicity, but I wasn't sure if I was going to use it right. And just as I was teetering on the word, my friend goes ahead and mentions it. Now, I couldn't help but feel like as I was explaining the stories to him, he thought maybe I was looking too deep into things. So I was almost begging, without really realizing it, to show him how absurd these coincidences had gotten. So, the next time we were hanging out, or we were playing Elden Ring while in a PS5 party together, and we were hanging out with this other friend, and somehow that topic of that Tyler the Creator lyric comes up, you know, I'm a walking paradox, no I'm not. And my friend was just making a joke about it, because we used to be like so mind blown by that lyric when we were in elementary school, and it was like, wow, it's so deep. Anyways, you know, we're just laughing, and the topic goes on, and we didn't think much of it. Later that night, I had gone on a Twitter thread, I can't remember about what, and I had left a reply. And you know, as when you leave replies on Twitter threads, sometimes people like your replies and stuff, some randoms you've never met. As I'm looking at the notifications for the likes on my post or reply, I noticed that one username is @WalkingParadox. Now, if that's not a synchronicity, I'm not sure what is. It was crazy. It was almost as if while I was begging for a way to show my friend how crazy the synchronicities had gotten, one would just fall on my lap, and I could just hand it to him and go, look. It was almost like the universe was giving me a little wink, you know, like a little something for following the breadcrumb trail, if you know what I mean. It was like a synchronicity within another, a walking paradox of a synchronicity, if you will.
Boo! You stink!
Oh, okay. After this incident and 3 years of synchronicities just popping up in my day-to-day life, as I began this journey, the first step was to really understand what is a synchronicity, what does the word exactly mean, where does it come from? And upon my extensive scholarly research, I came to the discovery that the one who coined this term was actually the GOAT himself, Carl Jung. Jung, I'm pretty sure it's Jung. In case you don't know him, Carl Jung was a psychologist in the early to mid 1900s whose works have been beyond influential in the realms of philosophy, psychology, anthropology, to name a few, you know. After all, he is considered the father of analytical psychology. But his ideas and philosophies were able to transcend the fields of just pure academia alone. His ideas would influence art, culture, the psyche of the world in some ways. Now, for a quick disclaimer, I am no expert on Jung. I am a business major who knows like little to nothing about psychology, but I do dabble in the occasional psychology YouTube video, you know? Who does? Having said that, though, I can say that some of my favorite works, or I guess ideas from Jung, are his interpretation on dreams, his analysis of the archetypes within the world around us, and just his overall inclination to kind of want to look at Eastern spiritualism for a source of inspiration in his works. Because you don't really see often those academic types pay too much credence to mysticism and spiritualism. Based on my understanding of Jung, it really came to no surprise that he was the one who coined this term. So now that I've rambled a bit about Jung, you're probably still thinking, well, what does a synchronicity mean? To put it in layman's terms, a synchronicity is when something in the external world happens that coincides with your thoughts, your emotions, your feelings, your dreams. something that's correlating with the inside world of yours, if that makes sense. Often it's accompanied by a feeling that whatever just happened was a bit more profound than you'd think at first glance. Think of a time when you haven't seen a friend in a long time and they pop up in your dreams out of nowhere. The next day, you randomly get a message from that person reaching out to you and just catching up with you. That's an example of a synchronicity. Or even you have this random song, not even like something that's popular on the radio, but just like some random song stuck in your head. And all you can remember is just that one line from the song without any of the melodies or the tunes or anything. You can just remember the lyrics. And as you're walking down the street, you hear someone whistling the song itself, reminding you. I'm sure you guys are getting what I'm talking about. I'm confident that you've experienced your fair share of synchronicities in your life. So why am I beating a dead horse and getting so excited over something that seems so banal and just like a plain coincidence? Well, I realized as I was researching this that Jung actually believed that these incidents had a deeper significance than we would ascribe to them. For many people around the world, starting to recognize the synchronicities that happen around them and maybe their deeper profoundness has acted as a catalyst for their spiritual journey. In his book, Synchronicity, an Acausal Connecting Principle, Jung talks about a specific synchronicity that he witnessed himself once. While working with a patient that he would describe as rigid and someone who was just a bit too extreme in her rationality and her logicality, does logicality work? In her logicalness, I don't know. But she was so steeped into looking at things from such a rational, logical perspective that she was unable to open up about her emotions. He'd actually go as far as to describe her as psychologically inaccessible. During one particular session with Jung, the woman would be talking about a dream that she had the night before. In the dream, someone had given her a piece of jewelry which was shaped like a scarab beetle with a golden tint. As she's going on about the dream, Jung notices a little knocking on the window. So he turns to the window and he opens it up. And you know what he grabs? He grabs a bug, and you'll never guess what it was. A scarab beetle. Not just a scarab beetle, but a scarab beetle with a golden greenish tint. The beetle itself looked very familiar to the piece of jewelry that she had seen in her dream. Jung, being an epic boss that he is, turns to her nonchalantly and is like, "Here's your scarab." So when I heard about this epic dub from my boy Jung, I couldn't help but relate it to the walking paradox synchronicity I had experienced myself with my friend. It almost felt like the synchronicity I had experienced about that lyric was an allegory in some sense for the story of Jung and the golden scarab. Now, of course, my friend wasn't rigid and unaccepting and dismissing of what I was telling him like the patient was, but it was just that I was struggling to explain the significance of the synchronicities I was experiencing and how real they were. One would just end up tapping up at my proverbial window. So I'm going to read this part, but Jung continues to describe the event in the book as puncturing the desired hole in the woman's rationalism and breaking the ice of her intellectual resistance. So Jung would continue his sessions with the woman and be able to reach breakthroughs and results which had seemed nearly impossible prior to this event. So while I was writing this video, I was beginning to reflect on my personal journey in spiritualism and connecting with that side of my life and the amount of synchronicities I started noticing in my life. And I started to realize that the abundance of synchronicities I started to realize or started to notice correlated with that time in my life when I was, I guess, getting through a hard part and starting to truly discover myself and begin this personal journey. I had just finished my first semester of second year of university, and I wasn't in the best of places. I was not a good student. I wasn't paying attention, and I was doubting myself a lot. And so I had failed a class, and I was in academic probation and all that stuff, and I was really questioning everything. And it's around that time when I started noticing a lot of synchronicities in my life. And then I am where I am today. I'm done school and can't help but feel that maybe those synchronicities were in a form, a message telling me that I was on the right path in life. A lot of people around the world believe that these special moments that the universe or God or this simulation, whatever you want to call it, are a message to us from them. In fact, a lot of people believe that these messages are an indicator or a sign that we're on the right path we're supposed to be in life. Now, I get we live in an age of empiricism, rationalism, and objectivity. It's easy to and it's super simple to kind of dismiss these types of events as some sort of just coincidence, let alone interpret them as some deep, profound cosmic message. Now, Jung himself was aware of this, which is why in his book he goes to great extents to rationalize this irrationality. He's adamant in saying that he doesn't reject the notion that these could be simple coincidences devoid of any meaning. But sometimes, as many of you may know, these improbable events just keep stacking up to the point where they don't seem like a simple coincidence anymore. You start to take them as that profound cosmic message I mentioned. In fact, many cultures around the world see these types of events as acts of God. In his attempt to build a rational framework around the idea of synchronicity, Jung would take a lot of inspiration from ancient Chinese texts, more specifically the I Ching. I think it's pronounced the I Ching. I Ching? I'm not sure. After all, Jung was quite the fan of Eastern spiritualism. In the I Ching, it states that one's inner world directly interacts with the outer world. And I'm personally inclined to subscribe to this type of philosophy or theory. Based on the amount of synchronicities I've experienced, I can't help but feel that way at this point. In this wonderful Medium article written on synchronicity, which, by the way, this video takes heavy inspiration from, the writer Harry J. Stead states, "Synchronicity is not merely the giving of subjective meaning to improbable events. Rather, it entails that such events have meaning by themselves. It is a message from a greater power, which reveals the deep connection between physical events and psychic events. This takes us into the realm of metaphysics, that substrata of reality which is beyond the material, and invoking such, it implies a deeper, unseen order to the universe." And to me, this quote is quite comforting. I'm sure there's no controversy in saying that the last 2 years, the world has become quite a chaotic and at times very nihilistic place. Which is why me starting to notice all these synchronicities in my life, which led to my conversation with my friend and the walking paradox synchronicity, which was the impetus for me starting to research this video. And it was within this research that I realized that synchronicities do have a more profound meaning if you choose to look at it that way, or they could have a more profound meaning. And I'd come to realize that entire walking paradox synchronicity, it would be an allegory of some way for Jung's scarab moment. And as I researched and realized all of that, I realized that the driving force for this entire video was the synchronicity of itself. So all of this is to say, in a roundabout way mind you, that I can't help but interpret all of this as some sort of profound cosmic message, reassuring me, telling me it's okay, I'm on the right path, and things will all be okay. No matter how unsure this world might seem and I might feel, I'm going where I should be.